Feel it all. Feel that there is nothing else like it. Feel perfection, freedom. Feel the air, the breathe. The light through its marbling. Feel your eyes close. The aroma, that unique flavor of Iberian ham. Feel its reminiscence in your mind. Nature. Feel the desire to have it. The need to share it. Feel another level. With intensity. Because this is how passion feels. Because this is how ham, Iberian ham, is enjoyed. Ham, the passion of Europe. Enjoy, it's from Europe.
Well, a very warm welcome to the London Geller College of Hospitality and Tourism at the University of West London. My name is James Edmonds and I'm the Dean for the London Geller College of Hospitality and Tourism. Unfortunately, based on the current unprecedented circumstances, I have to join you virtually rather than being with you today, which is a great shame. But it is my pleasure to welcome to the university the Ham Passion Tour of Europe in what is becoming a regular event on our autumn calendar series. I would like to thank all involved in organising today's demonstration for once again choosing the University of West London to undertake this amazing insight into the origins and production of Iberian ham. This really is a fantastic learning experience for our students who are studying on the Culinary Arts and Nutrition Management programme. And I really do hope that you are able not just to enjoy but to engage fully in today's session. Once again, I'd like to thank all of those individuals who have helped to arrange today in what is obviously very difficult circumstances. So thank you very much. And what I'll now do, rather than making this video too long, is hand you over to Peter, who will now take you through the rest of the day. And I really do hope our students enjoy. And for those involved, thank you ever so much for undertaking this for us. Thank you.
I would like to welcome you to this training workshop organized by the Ham Passion Tour program of Europe. We will now offer you a masterclass to tell you more about Iberian products, what they are, what they mean, and how they are produced. And we will tell you all about this trademark product of Spanish gastronomy. We will be offering simultaneous translation so that you can listen in your own language, and we also have a chat available for your questions. We'll be happy to try and answer all your questions at the end of the talk. Let me tell you more about who is behind the Ham Passion Tour campaign. We have the Interprofessional Association of Iberian Pig. It was created in 1992 and it was officially legally established in 1999 when it was approved by the Ministry of Agriculture. So this Interprofessional Association of the Iberian Pig is jointly and equally represented by producers and processors. Producers meaning farmers and pig breeders, processors being the processing industry, traders and dealers in this iconic product in ham, Iberian ham. So this interprofessional association intends to provide information to its stakeholders, both producers and the processing industry, to act as interlocutor with the different administrations and to do research and development. This is part of what we're doing today. Then, through this workshop, we are also offering you one of the Ham Passion Tour sessions. This is a very ambitious plan which was created roughly 3 years ago thanks to a European grant accounting for almost 6 million euros, which intended to raise the profile of Iberian products around different European countries like the UK, France, Germany, Spain as well. And we also had the opportunity to continue with the program in a third country, Mexico. And what values can the Ham Passion Tour convey to all of us? Of course, we intend to highlight the value of Iberian products for export in countries which are the main markets for the import of Iberian products: France, Germany, and the UK in Europe. This is what we really would like to do with the Ham Passion Tour, to raise the profile of our products. But let me tell you a bit more about the producing sector, the Iberian producing sector. Our industry is made up by almost over 16,000 farmers of Iberian pigs. We also have 72 slaughterhouses which are exclusively used for Iberian breed pigs, and we have between 750 760 processing industries which will bring the final product to consumers. This is a small industry, it is true, but the figures are very high in the economic context. Our turnover is over 2 billion euros, and we represent almost 8% of all the meat products sold in Spain. So this is an iconic and highly relevant product which offers differential values, a high value. And we will develop these values during the talk. It's not only meat, it's the representation of a culture, a specific sensitivity, the Mediterranean diet, and so on. So let's have a look at where Iberian pig products come from. They are to be set in a specific territory in the Iberian Peninsula, including Spain and Portugal. And here we would like to highlight the culture, the tradition, the legacy that has been passed down by our forebears, and we're now offering to you, hotel and catering industry students, so that you can share this with the rest of the world, and so that you can highlight the relevance of this product in your own cuisine. It's important to know where we come from and what we can offer. We are also offering sustainability values, animal welfare, the rural world, traceability of products, and so on and so forth. These are the features that set Iberian products apart. But let me focus on two of these products, the breed and the diet. What is the breed? We are talking about the Iberico, the Iberian breed, and we have animals who are 100% Iberian breed, 75% Iberian breed, or 50% Iberian breed. And then we have the diet. The diet of these animals is based on the dehesa pasture lands. These pasture lands mixed with woodlands are very well known by the acorns that these animals are fed on. These animals are reared and fed with acorns, and this is going to provide the differential features of this ham product. Another kind of Iberian pig is fed with cebo de campo, as we call it. These pigs would range freely in the fields, and they would also be fed with cereal and legumes, apart from the grass. And then we also have Iberian cebo pigs, which are stay in farms and are reared and fed with cereal and legumes. So this combination of feed and diet is what creates, in part, the product that we are supporting by the association. We've also established a number of seals and tags to identify the kinds of products, their diet, the diet and the breed of the pigs. And we would also like to highlight that we are offering a new social value, social economic value, sustainability values, the value of the dehesa. We are in rural areas. We contribute to avoiding rural depopulation. We work in favor of extensive livestock farming at the dehesa, which are over 3.5 million hectares in Spain, and these are values, differential values, which are carried by the Iberian sector. Another feature that is unique to Iberian products is time, the time it takes to mature. Most of the meat products are animals which are slaughtered and they are immediately reaching consumers a few days later. We don't do that. We slaughter the animals, but we comply with the standards and rules for the product, and at least 20 months go by before the product reaches consumer. The ham will mature for at least 20 months in the cellars, 20 months, sometimes even up to 2-3 years. And this is the time when the aroma, the texture, and the flavor is built on and leads to this top-notch quality product that we have. And we will show you in a minute in a very simple video clip which highlights how the Iberian product is manufactured. In that way, you will be able to understand how this jamón ibérico is made, the iconic product of Spanish gastronomy.
Enjoy, it's from Europe.
As you have seen in the video clip we just shown, the value of time is of the essence for us, because you need to bear in mind that each piece needs to be cured for at least 20 months, but it can go as far as 3, 4, or even 5 years of curing. I will tell you now about the production process for this highly demanded and highly regarded product. Before I continue, let me remind you that you have a chat feature in your Zoom, and there you can post your questions so that we can then clarify any doubts you might have. I'll try to tell you in a few simple steps how the product is elaborated. First of all, the first period is the shaping, the profiling. A professional would trim the piece or the leg, which gives it a very special shape, which is called a guitar or a violin sometimes, and then the V shape that is so typical. Then, once the leg has been shaped, we would go into salting. The salting phase means that the leg is buried in salt. It's like 1 kilo per day. It is true that when you get the leg home, it weighs, for instance, 8 kilos, but it has been dried. It has lost weight along the way. So the piece can be roughly 14 kilos of weight when it goes into the salting room, and that would mean about 15 days, so 1 day per kilo in salt. What is the effect of that salt? Well, on the one hand, it helps dehydrating, and then it's also a natural preservative, so that from then on the whole process will become totally natural. It's a way to guarantee the food safety. After that, we go to rinsing and cleaning of the superficial salt, and then we would move on to the next stage of resting and drying. Here we have we put the hams in a chamber and we need to control temperature. For food safety purposes, we want to control the temperature and the humidity. And in these natural drying chambers, we control humidity. We are roughly at 3 degrees. We increase temperature, and then we reduce humidity to achieve a uniform and a regular homogeneous salting. When somebody tastes the ham, as some people say, it's salty, it's cured, it's sweet, or it's nutty. So we've said that we do first the shaping of the leg, then we go to the salting, then we go to resting and drying, and finally to natural dryers, so our natural drying chambers, like the one you see on the screen, where we have this very long process. That's where we say that ham goes to sleep. Here, we would control temperature by opening or closing windows, like the ones you see on the background, and that's where the product is cured. At least it will spend 2 years there, sometimes 3 to 4 years. And this is a very important phase. This is where it will acquire the flavor, the aroma that turns the product into something so unique. These natural drying cellars are to be found in the Iberian Peninsula. The ecosystem is a determining factor. Temperature, humidity in the area where those cellars are key, because that's what goes into the curing process. So after the 2, 3, 4 years in the natural drying chambers, then the next thing that comes into play is the expert ham maker. Who's an expert ham maker? Well, it's someone with a long-standing experience in appreciation and assessment of ham. And he can tell when it's the optimum time for consumption. So by touching the ham and feeling how solid it is, and also by what we call a test. They introduce a bovine bone that will allow us to appreciate the aroma, the flavor. And there, the expert ham maker will understand if that leg is ready for consumption. Once it is, then it can be marketed. So before a ham leg goes to the market, every single leg is supervised and checked to make sure that it has reached the optimum curing period. That is essential. Why? Because that will allow us to enjoy the product with all the four senses. The sight, the narrow shank of the ham, the color, the red color, the fine stripes of fat, the infiltrated creamy stripes of fat, which make it so unique. And then the touch, which is essential because the product has a very smooth texture that makes it easier to chew. And then when we start smelling it, we will discover the different nuances of all the flavors and aromas, things that are linked to products which have spent these 2 years sleeping while curing. When you go and you're about to taste it, while you introduce it in your mouth, you will feel the very well-known impact, what we call the umami flavor, which is a combination of sweet and salty and cured. That makes eating a slice of Iberian ham into something that is so hard to grasp, so hard to describe. So it's an instant in your mouth for an eternal memory. It is a unique, unmatchable product. It's such a special product. It's so different from anything else you might find on the market. We are the first ones to acknowledge that. And that's why we want to guarantee to all consumers that that product is really Iberian ham. And that's why we have moved forward in the last few years, adopting new technologies. Of course, we are deeply rooted in tradition, but we have started 3 initiatives that I will tell you in a minute about to guarantee to all consumers that that is a really Iberian product. We have a traceability system we call Itaca, and we have compulsory seals in all the pieces that go out to the market. And we have also introduced an an app to look at the traceability of that piece. What is Itaca? Itaca stands for Identification, Traceability, and Quality. It is a web system that supports the full traceability of all pieces. It identifies the animal, its breeders, and it follows all the process all the way to the market. So the whole elaboration and the production is fully traced, 100%. Why? Because we have a quality standard which establishes the minimum quality parameters that an Iberian product needs to comply with in order to be marketed as Iberian. And it establishes a number of obligations in the different steps of the process. So as you comply with the different steps, then the quality standards allows you to move forward to the next stage of the production process. I'll give you a simple example. For instance, imagine I am a cattle farmer for acorn-fed pigs. If I want to identify a product such as an acorn-fed product, well, the animal has to be ranging freely at the Dehesa pasturelands for the last 60 days. So if I bring the animal to the fields, to the Dehesa fields, it will not be slaughtered before the 60 days established in the standard, in the rules. And they also need to put on weight, at least 46 kilos by eating acorns, at least 46, because the nutritional values of acorns are then passed on to the product, to the ham. So this traceability systems allows us to move forward in the process as we comply with the minimum quality standards established in the regulations. You can, of course, increase them. You can, for instance, spend more than, well, have the animals spend more than 2 months out in the fields eating acorns, or put on more weight based on acorns. But the traceability system is a way to guarantee that farmers and producers contribute with real-time information about what they are doing. So we currently have the system that allows us to have this real-time picture of the system. I know how many animals are slaughtered, the weight they have, and so on and so forth. And in slaughterhouses, for instance, we have some weighing systems because, of course, the quality standard establishes minimum carcass weights. So when the carcass is weighed, if the minimum weight is established, then it can be tagged as Iberian product. And if it does not comply with the minimum weight, it would be a meat product, but it cannot be called Iberian. So the control is really strict because this is a top-notch gourmet product that we really want to follow in a very thorough way. So the carcass is weighed, and if it is Iberian, based on the way it has been fed, whether it is with acorns or fodder or farm, and depending on how on the breed purity, if it's 100% Iberian, 70 or 50%, then a color would be attached to a label, to a seal that is put on every piece. Here you see the 4 seals that follow the standard. It's black, red, green, and white, and each one of them classifies the piece and places it in a different category. So we have 4 categories of Iberian ham, and therefore 4 different seals. Black and red would be acorn-based animals, and green and white would be fed with feed. The black one is 100% Iberian, the red one is 75 or 50% Iberian. And regarding the diet, what's the difference between the green and the red and the white tag? The green ones are free-ranging animals, which range freely in the fields, but they are also given feed, and the white ones are in the farm. So depending on the diet and on the breed, they will be given a different tag, a different seal. And why are these seals, these tags, so important? Because they provide so much information to the consumers. So consumers will know that wherever in the world they buy an Iberian product, they will need to check that they have one of these seals, one of these tags. And let me show you one. Close up, we will see that this is an acorn-fed Iberian pig, and you will see that in the other side of the tag we have a barcode. This is like the ID of that piece. This barcode is linked to all the traceability information that we have in the Ithaca system. What animal it is, who were the breeders, in which farm it was reared, where it was slaughtered, how much time it spent out in the fields, and the carcass weight, and so on. So it is compulsory to identify all the Iberian pieces with a seal like this one. And thanks to the barcode that you see there, and in order to guarantee the transparency and traceability to consumers, we have an app which is called Iberico. This app, Iberico, allows consumers to check all the information about each piece. This is a fully free app. It's interactive, very simple, very easy to use, and it is available for iOS and Google, and you can double check the traceability of the piece you are about to buy. So it uses all the information that we have in the Ithaca system, and it can be offered to the consumer as well. Let me make a demo with my own mobile phone. It's as simple as this. Once I open the app, I can read the barcode by bringing my phone close to the tag, to the seal. And if I have any problems with that, if the light is not good, whatever, I can identify the tag with the number, and the information that would be provided would be this. We have 6 items. First is the number code identifying that piece. Then we have the kind of product, whether it is a ham or it is a shoulder. Then the diet, the animal's diet, we said that it was either based on acorns or cebo campo, which is fodder fed, grazed, or cebo, which is fed in farms with feed. Then we would also have whether it's 175 or 50% Iberian breed. Then the next one is in what month the processing of that piece started. In this case, it's over 5 years. Imagine how valuable this is for us, because these products take a long time to go out to the market. And finally, we have the autonomous community, the region of Spain where this was elaborated. For us to understand the importance of this app, over 72 million codes of all the shoulders and hams that have come up to the market are located since 1914 when the standard was published. Each one of the hams and shoulders, Iberian hams and shoulders, has come up with one of the four seals or tags and a unique code that would allow us to guarantee the full traceability of each piece. So this app has been a great success since it was launched. Over 26,000 times it has been downloaded, over 38 countries, and I don't know, lots and lots of users and use cases. So that means that consumers really want to know about what these piece that they are going to buy. And this is, for us as producers, it's important to offer these guarantees to consumers. So we have the traceability system, we have these seals or these tags that identify each piece, and then we have the app. These are three examples of how the Iberian sector guarantees quality and transparency and is accountable to consumers. And we believe that that's the way forward. We want consumers to be involved in this opening up process that the Iberian sector has engaged on. And before we start with a theoretical class where we will start with our master ham carver, I would like to show you in a brief video clip the 6 or 7 tips you need to bear in mind when cutting Iberian ham. And after that, we will have Silvain and we will have a master class on how ham should be cut. So let's move on to the video clip. Thank you.
Enjoy, it's from Europe.
Aquí ahora nos acompaña nuestro maestro cortador.
Now we have here our master carver, Silvain. But before we start with the practical side of the masterclass, practical session, we want to respond to the questions you have put forward to us. First, why, you asked, Iberian products are so intimately linked to Spain. Antonio? Thank you for the question, and thank you for taking part in these sessions with these questions. Iberian products are so intimately linked to Spain because these are products that come from the Iberian Peninsula, Spain and Portugal, and they are deeply rooted, these products, in the landscape, the culture, the gastronomy, the hills are pastures, as we explained, and they are part of the Mediterranean diet. There's another question that has been put forward to us also about whether it is compulsory for any Iberian ham to have the seal that we talked about. Indeed, for any of these species to be classified or considered Iberian, it needs to have this compulsory seal that guarantees it is an Iberian product. This seal is placed on the piece at the slaughterhouse once it has been verified that it complies with all the quality standards. So the seal guarantees this is up to standards in every way. Last, you ask how many hams are produced, Iberian hams, that is, are produced every year. Antonio, thank you, Jesus. It depends on the year we talk about. Last year, 3,600,000 animals were slaughtered, and so times 2, roughly, we produce 7 million hams. But it's to be said that for the different types that we have talked about, black, red, green, and white, each of those has its share. In terms of the black ones, we slaughtered roughly 600,000. The same goes for the red slaughter, 1.3 million for the green seal, and roughly 4 million hams for the white seal. Those are the production numbers. As Antonio says, the most exclusive product, as you see, it's a gourmet product. It's so exclusive that pretty much the 2 acorn-fed categories together do not go beyond 1.2 million units per year. So in graphic terms, if we were to take into account all hams produced and we cut them all, slice them all up, we could not give one slice to each person living in the world in 1 year. This is how exclusive these products are. These are gourmet products with very limited production and very specific quality traits. We are going to leave you with Sylvain, the master cutter, so that he shares his experience and talks about how his life is actually pretty much centered around this product, and how he lives and earns a living around ham and everything related to ham. Sylvain, take it away. Hello, welcome to this more hands-on practical section of the Ham Passion Tour. We are now going to have the opportunity to talk about cutting the ham, and it is such a pleasure for me to be with you now to talk about this. I am a professional ham cutter. I have been for 20 years, as Jesus has mentioned, I believe. And this means I have experience in gourmet shops and in events. So what is this profession to be a ham cutter? It is a specialty within the gourmet world. We are the last link in the chain, as it were, before we get to the end consumer, before this wonderful product, the Iberian ham, this wonderful piece is served to the consumer. There are cutters who perhaps develop their activity more in industrial settings and events, external events. Some others work in shops and external various events. And this is really a job I love. It's never dull to be a ham cutter. We go to different places, all kinds of events, things as varied as a wedding one day, or an inauguration, a festival, a party. This means we go to many different places at many different times of day, midday, in the evening. So it is a really a fascinating job because it's never dull, as I said. This is also a job where we help each other as colleagues. We're not competing against each other, but sometimes 2 or 3 of us go to the same event, 2 or 3 cutters, depending on how big the event is. As you're going to see in a minute, I'm going to present this wonderful piece. This is a piece of ham, as you can see, with a white label. It's a cebo ham, very slim, aerodynamic almost in terms of its shape, with a darker color on the outer layer, and the black hooves, the very characteristic black hooves. It's also very typical to have this V-shape cut on this side. As you can see, this piece is divided in the various parts of a ham: the hoof, or the caña, shank, the hock, jarrete, the thick end, or masa, the narrow side, which we call babilla in Spanish, and the tip, or punta. These are the different parts we're going to be working with. In order to cut a ham, you need many different types of tools and knives, which we'd have to acquire if we don't have them. There is the white blade or machete knife. We can also talk about the paring knife. This long and flexible knife, which is the ham knife proper. And in order to ensure they are always in top shape, we will use a knife sharpener. And to serve it, we'll use tweezers or a thong or the glove. Let me give you a few tips about how to go about cutting a ham. We are going to take it very easy, step by step, because first and foremost, we need to do this safely. We do not want to hurt ourselves. This is a highly hazardous material, as it were. And of course, as always in the kitchen, we need to be careful. We could hurt ourselves in the kitchens or at home, obviously, if we are not helpful. So we need to ensure we leave the hand at the back, or if we cut this way, to have it on top, on the upper part. So where do we start cutting a ham? This is a question we often get. And I'd say it depends on how cured it is, how mature it is. And also, depending on the event, we'll start someplace or another. For the narrow end, that cures quicker than the thick end, obviously. So we can play depending on the type of event and start on the narrow side or the thick end. We prefer starting on the thick end because it is more commercial, it's more beautiful, it's more aesthetically speaking, is more beautiful indeed. So that's what we normally do, start on the thick end. Let me tell you a secret. This part, this bone, is a little mound-like, and we are going to measure 2 fingers from that little bone, and from then on, we could perfectly start cutting vertically, as you see me doing. But it's not what we usually do. What we usually do is to cut at a 45-degree angle in order to have a bit more meat and leave the piece looking nicer when we cut. So we do a cut directly all the way to the bone. And we are going to establish the limits of the area we're going to cut. We could do perhaps 30% cleaning of the ham, taking out the skin and the outer layer. We could do half of it, or we could do a bit more. Again, it depends on the event and how much we need to cut. So I take the paring knife now. and I establish a mark. I establish the limits. Always being extra careful, not going way too deep in order not to leave too many marks, too unnecessary deep marks on the ham. This is the toughest part of the piece. So we need to be very careful, leave our hand out of the way on the upper part of the piece always. There we go. The bottom part is easier to cut because there's only fat there. We do exactly the same on the other side. This is the internal cut. We do cut pretty much to the same level, more or less. And then diagonally marking how far we are going to go. So we draw these borders, and this is our working area now that we have established. Again, I take the broad blade knife again, and I start taking out delicately the outer layer. Later, when we want to put the ham away again after having cut, we'll put aside a bit of this soft fat that we will use in order to help preserve the ham better, preserve the piece better. As you can see, my hand is always safe and totally out of the way of the knife. This is how we initially clean. We take out the outer layer. This is a very tricky moment. We need to be highly concentrated here. I'm going to use this device, the ham base or the ham stand, which has a system that allows you to establish how high or low you want the ham to be. It has a height regulator. We need to go slowly but surely. And here we also mark this very beautiful line, as you can see. This is a bit what's going to be the guide for us to go by when we start cutting. So I insist, we need to be super careful. With a rotating movement, if necessary, because there are certain sections of the piece that are convex. They are not so easy to peel if we don't rotate the knife, the paring knife, as you see me doing right now. You can see where there are bits of the outer layer that are falling off. We'll clean that later. And this is ready now. We also change knives quite often, depending on the area we're working on. Sometimes I'll use either the broad blade, the machete, or the paring knife, depending on the area I'm working on. Okay, so I can come back and fine-tune what I've done in certain areas if necessary. And here it is. I go all the way to the queen's bone, it is called, translated literally, all the way to this area you see me working on right now. This is the most complicated part, actually. We take out this unnecessary fat also. Then we go, we rotate the piece so that I can work more comfortably, and do the same on the other side. As you can see here, the toughest skin is a part we are particularly careful with. We take it out, we remove it slowly. And then this side section which has a lot more fat is easier. We do not have to push too much. It's very soft, and so it's easy to work on it. Okay. What we're going to try and remove more than anything else is these traces, as you can see here, of yellower fat, which might have a bit of a rancid taste. Okay, now I'm going to finish it off with the ham knife to give it a more aerodynamic shape. And I keep this fat, which is long streaks of soft lard, for the preservation later on, as I mentioned. So this is how we work. At the beginning, it's more comfortable to work with the gloves on, but when it comes to cutting, properly speaking, and serving on the platter, we are going to use the tweezers too. Keep a bit more fat for later, and that's it. And now, last but not least, to finish cleaning, I do one last cut at the top on the hock area to take out a bit more fat that we do not need. There we go. And now I take a bit more yellow fat. And so, as you can see, this is far more shaped, we could say. There's a part with a lot more fat here. And on the other side, I can show you in a minute. As you can see, it's far cleaner. There we have it. Some yellow sections I remove also. And now we are going to move the ham base a little bit, and we clean the ham knife. Cleaning and cleanliness is very important when we work. The objective now, or the secret, the most important tip I can give you, is how we're going to cut as if it were a violin. We're going to make a zigzag movement, as you see me doing right now. If I break down the movement, I'm actually cutting when I go to my right, and I do not cut when I go to the left. The first slices are never too pretty, so we'll just put them aside on one first platter. There is still a lot of fat. This is a key trait of the Iberian ham, but this is very special fat, rich in oleic content in the best pieces, cebo de campo and acorn-fed bellota. Here, as you see, slices are always going to have that characteristic marbling with the fat really in very fine veins or streaks intricated in the meat. What we are going to aim for too is to make slices that are ideally 3-4 centimeters long. These are bite-sized slices so that we can continue talking, eat, and then continue talking immediately, for instance. And we leave roughly 1 centimeter fat on the side. I am still working on the slices that I will not use for a platter because they are not too homogeneous yet.
Ya está.
Okay.
Entonces, como ven,
As you can see, we go deeper into the ham. Slices are becoming longer.
el corte empieza a estar mucho más interesante.
It's becoming far more interesting in terms of the quality of the cut.
Todavía estoy cortando
But I am still
algunas lonchas, pero poco a poco me van
cutting a few not so good slices, but they are getting better.
luego mezclaremos también
We will later
parte alta
mix part of the top hog side with the more central thick end section of the piece.
aquí lo ven. Suele haber
As you can see, there is a section,
muy blanca en el
an area with a lot of white right in the center, which we will remove little by little.
entonces bueno, la idea va a ser
So the main idea is
tener este lado
basically to be a bit creative when it comes to how we arrange the platter.
pues tener una
And at the same time, we are going to try and bring some symmetry into the way we arrange the slices.
pues las lonchas siempre
Slices
dándose un poco
will always slightly overlap each other, but we are not putting them one on top of each other like a stack. Rather, they overlap slightly.
vamos a rotar el plato
We'll rotate the dish, the platter,
y ven, vamos a tapar poco a poco
and gradually we're going to
del plato,
cover
espacio más o menos
one side of the platter, leaving a couple of centimeters free from, a distance of a couple of centimeters to the edge of the platter.
esta fase inicial es bastante
This initial phase is quite time consuming. It takes quite long, but we'll pick up some speed as we move on and concentrate more on the piece itself.
entonces repito parece fácil pero no lo es tanto.
It might appear to be easy, but it isn't so easy.
La siguiente medida a partir de 1 centímetro del mango
Now, measuring 1 centimeter from the handle will cut up to with up to 50-70% of the knife blade.
y aquí arriba siguiendo la limpieza de algunas lonchas.
I continue cleaning some of the slices here at the top.
Entonces para la idea siempre
The idea
entrar con el cuchillo
is
plano
always not to go in with a flat knife, but always give it a bit of an angle. Roughly here, as you can see, 30 degrees. And once we go in, then we position it flat. so that we can, I explained this so that you can, break down the movement I'm actually making.
Sí. En estas partes de grasa lateral las sigo quitando.
This fat on the sides I remove.
Ahora, la loncha que queremos,
The slice
ideal es así.
we want, the ideal size is this.
Vamos rotando.
We keep rotating the platter.
Siempre solapando
Always
la loncha
arranging the slices slightly overlapping the one that we've placed before,
de esta forma.
as you see.
Vamos girando el plato.
And now we proceed and we continue to rotate the plate.
El secreto también está
The secret is also to
salir del jardín.
tap it slightly when you come out. Let me explain what I mean by that.
Cuando entro en la loncha,
When I go in
para salir,
to
dejar
cut a slice, in order to come out and make sure it's cut in a straight way, I just do this very slight little tap gesture, and then I start where I left
poco a poco,
for the next one.
vamos componiendo el
So slowly but surely, we are filling up our platter.
Luego, durante el corte también podemos
And we can also trim some more if we consider to shape it further, if we consider it is necessary. Of course, we can always do that. So you can see now,
la veta la vemos muy bien.
the veins are, and the marbling is very easily seen, and that very characteristic deep red along with the fat. These are slices that are very translucent. It's a very bright red, and this is also a sign of high quality. That deep, dazzling red. So we continue cutting.
Luego, poco a poco, en esta zona donde estoy ahora, va a aparecer el hueso,
We'll see the bone,
lo llamamos también el hueso de la reina.
the queen bone or the bridge bone, we call it. This is a very sensitive moment for somebody who's never cut ham, because we get scared when we get to this point.
Si es como crear un poco la ola, lo que llamamos la ola, es decir,
We create what we call the wave.
lo que intentábamos hacer hasta ahora era tener recto nuestra pieza,
Up until now, we wanted to have the piece pretty much straight in order to be able to, and in order to control that we are indeed managing that, we can see that with the knife. But now here, see this piece on the side here, what we need to do is something else, because I can't go any deeper, as you can
ojo, que es como una media luna.
see. So it's like a half moon shape that we have here,
Lo vemos aquí exactamente.
right here.
Posición. Una media luna, como un medio balón de rugby, si queréis.
Like a half rugby ball, perhaps you could call it too. So we just take the paring knife and
Hueso, pero muy poco a poco.
start
Es decir, vamos a trabajar como máximo.
surrounding or cutting around the bone,
Repetiremos
going down
no tiene una forma recta.
1 centimeter, a centimeter and a half tops.
O sea, va un poco para adentro y luego vuelve para.
And this bone goes deep, it goes to the left and then it goes back to the right.
No hay que forzar y
So
no hay que
we must not
directamente muy profundamente.
force anything, and we need to be delicate with the movements. As you can see, the slices now are exactly what we were looking for. So as you can see,
Vamos a empezar.
So we would now begin.
Vamos a empezar una segunda línea.
With the second row.
Aquí al revés, por ejemplo.
And for instance, we can place it
Como veis,
upside down.
he llegado al hueso de
I have already come to the bone, to the queen's bone, as we call it, and to the right I have a limit
la loncha. No se está pegando
that
al hueso.
defines
Hemos delimitado.
that slice. It isn't coming all the way up to the bone because we have a cut around it. And now here, as I have my bone around, I need to change the sense of the knife. So it's the reverse. It's exactly the same movement. I go inside the slice in an oblique way, and little by little, I come all the way to the bone. This movement requires a bit of rotation too. So we start perpendicular, and then we finish, as you can see, with a 90-degree rotation. In that way, we can keep the ham flat. And we measure little by little that we are moving straight. We continue with the slices that we are most interested in, and we repeat the same kind of rotation here.
El tamaño.
The size was not as wide at the start, and those slices further down are going to become bigger. We are going to use these slices for decoration. That's what we are going to use for the final touches of the platter. There you are. We rotate.
Ya está.
That's it.
Vamos haciendo esta rotación.
And we create this rotation.
Y vamos a cubrir poco a poco el plato.
And we cover the platter as we go along. You can see that the slices have some white dots. It's not the salt. It's what we call tyrosine dots. It is related to the number of the months that the hams have spent in the drying chambers. So this white spot here in the middle is also a sign of quality.
Rotamos.
Rotate.
Esta parte está casi.
This part here is almost finished, as you can see.
Vamos siguiendo. En este caso estoy intentando
and now I'm trying to overlap the same fat. So the fat from the first layer is covered now with the fat of the second layer.
Tenemos casi.
We're almost there.
Ven, voy solapando.
As you can see, I overlap
Luego
the slices and the fat.
podemos
And here,
rectificar un poco.
we can, of course, make corrections if we need to. We need to have this little leeway in the border of the plate, and the edge of the plate needs to be clear.
A más o menos siempre este mismo tamaño.
We need to cut more or less the same size, 3-4 centimeters long, and including the hardest bit and the part with the fat. That's going to be really important when you eat the ham, including the two parts, the hard one and the fat. That's an important feature of Iberian ham.
Lo que hacemos,
And here,
cogemos la penúltima loncha
we would take the second to last slice, we put it up,
y así tapamos.
and we cover.
Verificamos.
We check.
Vamos a decorar con algunos pétalos.
And now we're going to cover this with a few petals from the tip.
Es decir, estos pétalos los vamos a
These petals are going to be
así con el dedo, sacando
pinched with your finger
la grasa de esta forma.
so that we can show the fat out. I would like to insist on this area here.
Lo hacemos como un pequeño movimiento, como una ola.
This little movement, it's like a sort of, as if we were creating a sort of a wave, right? So let's go round again.
Como veis, utilizo el otro plato
And I use the other
para poner
plate
las lonchas que menos me interesan.
to leave there the slices I'm not interested in using at the moment.
El guante del dedo quizá es más cómodo en este momento.
Maybe the finger is easier to use at this point. We would like to insist on this movement with this reverse movement.
Es un poco cuestión de práctica también.
And as you can see, it takes a little bit of practice, of course, but I think that anyone can cut Iberian ham. It's just a question of practicing. This is just like tennis or just like golf. At the start, you feel very weird, but little by little, ham after ham, we build up our experience, especially if we have good tips, if we follow the right tips. For instance, if there's a slice that has too much fat, I would trim it here, and then I would add it. There you are. This area here has plenty of fat, lots of fat penetration. It's very typical for this kind of pig. It's 50% Iberian in this case. It's a mixed breed pig. So here we have the first layer. And we will have another one on top.
Como veis, eso no se hace muy rápido, es artesanal.
This is, the task of a craftsman. So it takes time, and you really need to focus on what you're doing.
A centrar, por supuesto, cuando hace falta.
And you need to focus on what you're doing and to correct anything you need to correct. And little by little, we shape the ham so that we can turn out a proper platter. Let's now do another plate, another platter in what we call the narrow side. First of all, we will have to clean the area as we did before. First, we'll need to clean up the knives. And thanks to this rotating system of the ham stand, for me, it's really easy to turn the ham around. I will begin by following what I began for the previous part of the ham. So here I would place the landmarks, the cutting area that I would use. Then again, I would use the broad blade knife to peel this area. You don't need to cut on the top area because there's hardly any meat there. I would also draw the landmarks for the bone here. This is going to be the edge of my cut from here all the way to here. And we can make an incision, if you wish, to try and find the bone. And I stop there. Now, let's be safe first. And in full safety, I would take the knife. I would remove this part of fat that I don't need. I would start peeling the piece. Of course, you can clean it all up or you can mark again. We could have marked it as I show, like that. Again, same thing on the other side. We could have marked it. Or else we could have removed the peel completely. Well, it depends on the occasion, if it's a wedding or a celebration where you know that there's going to be a big consumption. It's better to clear the whole piece from the onset, to be clean of the outer layer so that you don't have to do the cleaning process again when you turn it around. You need to be really careful with the knife. Never put your finger in front of the knife. It always needs to be like upstream from the knife. It has to be further up. And then we draw the cutting lines, and here again.
Con cuidado.
You need to be very careful there. One part here is inwards. So here I need to cut. We need to cut inwards. There's no other way around it. Like so. Again, the same rotation with the knife in order to remove these areas which are more difficult to access. This rotation, your hand needs to be protected at all times. And slowly but surely, we pull it apart. It's a difficult stage, though. Here. This would be the end of it. Now we're going to eliminate these areas that you see here, yellowish parts, and we're going to remove them as well with a small incision from the top and from the side. This is almost like surgery. You need to be really, really careful. Watch out. Now, this area is almost ready. We will continue to cut a bit more. Again, we need to remove that part here. We need to remove all the yellow peel because it's not tasty. We don't want that because we don't want to spoil the flavor of the slice with these parts which have this stale flavor to them with the peel. We can't cut that much here, so we will focus on the lower part and we will begin with the same system, with the same back and forth, this zigzag,
Así.
like so.
Repito, entro
Let me do that again.
en la pieza con un pequeño ángulo de 30 grados.
I will go in at more or less 30 degrees, 1 or 2 centimeters away from the handle, and then I go flat
Una loncha que esté lo más fina posible.
in order to have a thin, a really, really thin slice.
Vale, entonces cambiamos de plato. Luego, es verdad que para emplatar, luego hay que
Let's change the platter. When you place the ham in the platter, of course, that's where your creation comes into play. You really need to try and surprise
con la estética.
with your aesthetic layout.
En el segundo plato no vamos
In the second platter, we're not going to repeat the same layout. We're now going to play with
de las lonchas.
the angles of our slices.
Bueno, al principio
They need to be wafer thin.
es decir, no voy a poner recta mi loncha, sino la voy a
The
poner
slice is not going to be
así.
straight, but a bit lateral.
Voy a solapar. Si no tiene ángulo, no la
We'll
ponemos.
place them slanted. And well, if there's no angle here, we're not going to put it there. So
Dar la vuelta otra vez.
with this slanted wafers, we are going to go around the platter
Esas
as we
lonchas
did before.
se pueden poner
And the small slices can be placed at the center, and then we will cover them.
Vamos a dar este movimiento. Tapamos siempre la grasa
We cover the fat
de la loncha anterior.
of the previous slice.
Hay zonas que son muy grasas también que no podemos
Some
exponer.
areas are very fatty. As we cannot place them at the edges of the platter, we will place them in the center. We also remove the yellowish areas.
Las lonchas van a venir cada vez más bonitas.
And the slices are going to become nicer and nicer as we go deeper in the ham.
Vamos poco a poco. Las primeras lonchas son siempre
Okay. The first slices are always smaller. We place them at the center of the platter.
Le damos un poco más de rapidez también en el corte en este momento.
We can now cut a little bit faster.
Entonces, hay como, o sea, hablamos de este corte como la segunda.
This cut is the second stage. We are going for the narrow side now. And once we have roughly gone all the way to the bone, we could do a third cut, we call it. As you can see, I play with the angles right now.
Quitando siempre partes amarillas que pueden
I was
aparecer.
removing bits of yellow that might appear. Do not be frightened of removing them with the decision, with determination, with a ham knife. As you can see, this small movement at the end, you see, upwards, gives you a perfect angle to finalize the cut. Now it's much more beautiful. The slices that we're getting are far more beautiful, and this is the moment when we can speed up. Once I've finished this round, I'm always even going to be able to use the slices we put to a side before. See, we're overlapping the bits with fat this way, and slowly we get closer to going full circle. Almost there. Cutting one whole piece of ham is quite an endeavor, depending on how big the piece is. It would take us, if it is a small pig, 1.5 hours. If it is a big one, even 2.5 hours. Today we will not have time to finish this piece, which is why we wanted to show the most interesting moments in the whole carving or cutting process. As you see, I've been playing with the different angles, playing with the symmetries. And we are going to make the most of these little gaps I'm leaving and fill them up with little ham squares. As you can see, I'm cutting coming from the other direction or coming from the other side. There's a bone here too that we can remove during the cutting process. And what we tend to do is to try and identify where it is. We do a little 1-2 centimeter cut to establish where the limit is, to stop there and not touch the bone with the knife. That's what we've done here. As you can see, I cut upwards now. Here's the slice I got. And one last slice to finish this round. And as we did before, I'm going to lift the first slice a bit and cover that one with the last one, as I did before. So we have a full round, a full circle, and we use these slices that I have from before to go for those areas where there's still nothing, those little gaps. It's the time to put them to good use. And we finish with what we could call drawings, either in a square shape, in a triangular shape. So we have finished off the platter with slices cut in a slightly different way. We could also use slices from the center part of the narrow side. There we go.
Giro mi jamón,
And now
cojo por aquí
I can
pequeña loncha sin grasa.
here cut a small slice with no fat.
Por ejemplo,
And for instance,
pequeños cuadrados de ibérico.
draw little Iberian ham squares or dice
Podemos poner luego,
that we can arrange.
vamos a poner, por ejemplo, 8.
For instance, let us make 8 of those. We could make many more, 16, 32.
En este caso, como ven, voy a empezar
As you see here,
las 12 horas.
I'm going to start as if I were doing the 12 hours on a clock here. Then I go to 6, 3.
Se escapa.
It's a bit slippery, that one. That one's a bit sticky.
Voy a las 9
Here's my 9 o'clock.
de cada uno.
And then a little
Vale, damos
piece
un poco más
in
de
between
luego
to give it a bit of flair.
la grasa propia del jamón
And then we also use the fat.
con el cuchillo.
With the knife, I make sure everything is on a straight line.
Ya está.
And here it is. We could also use
Grasa lateral
even a bit of fat, as I was saying, a bit of the fat on the side.
para hacer incluso una pequeña referencia a una rosa, a una
To make
grasa.
Iberian fat roses,
Es muy
as
fácil.
this one,
Doy la vuelta
dead easy. You just turn it around,
y lo vamos a dar así alrededor de.
and we can place them like this
Le podríamos dar esta forma. Abrirla un poco.
to give it this shape. We can even open it up a bit.
Tendríamos
And there it is. This is another example. I suppose you've seen on screen other examples. This would be 2 examples of different ways we could arrange the slices of Iberian ham. There you go.
la parte de la varilla.
This is for the narrow side, and this one's for the thick end, which is very elegant. It fills up the platter a lot, but it's less colorful because it has less fat.
Ya está.
Okay.
Bueno, nos vamos a parar. Sobre todo, repasamos
We are going to leave it there.
el trabajo
Let us
primero, por
make sure we clean the work area, the knives in particular, make sure everything's in
y terminamos
perfect order.
esta zona
And we finish here,
quitando. Y a la hora de conservar el jamón,
removing this. And now it comes to the point where we need to arrange
la grasa que
the ham
habíamos cortado al principio,
to preserve it properly. So we had cut out long strands or pieces of
temperatura ambiente,
fat.
durante
We're going to preserve it at room temperature
sin tener
for 5-6 days without cutting again.
lateral,
If I need a bit more, I take it from the side
que no,
and I cover quite a lot so that the piece does not dry up.
y una vez que tengo cubierta
So
toda la zona,
I cover the top, and once I've covered the whole area I want to cover, I place it like this, and I could cover it with a cotton cloth or just plastic film.
muy bien. Supongo que nos
This is it.
algunas preguntas.
I suppose you do have questions.
¿Cuánto tiempo?
Let's see.
Preguntáis cuánto tiempo
Yeah, you're asking
hay que tener para cortar un jamón completo.
how long does it take to cut a full piece?
Os hayan dado.
It depends on the advice you've been given. If
Destrozar 3 jamones,
you haven't been told what to do, you're going to slaughter 3 pieces minimum. But with these tips I just gave you, I think you'll go faster and get a good result.
segunda,
There's another question.
nos pedís si hay una escuela
You
especial
ask
de jamón.
whether there is an official ham cutting school. There isn't as such, as far as I know. There are private
Unos cortadores,
schools with very good ham cutters who want to share their knowledge and expertise.
en general
But it is true to say that we learn from other colleagues who are very experienced. That's how we learn. We teach new Iberian ham cutters that way. Novices work with experienced people, and that's how they learn. You also ask about whether being a ham cutter opens doors in the hospitality industry. I'd say absolutely. This is within the gourmet world. It is a bonus, as it were, being able to cut a piece of ham properly and being able to do this job, which is very specialized, very specific, is a bonus, undoubtedly. Okay, and the last question you asked was about how to preserve the ham once you've started cutting, and I just explained. I don't know whether there are any other questions. It's been a real pleasure for me to be with you. Thanks for your attendance and your attention. Thank you.
To look for more, to yearn for ham, Iberian ham, over and over again, over and over again, over and over again. Ham, the passion of Europe. Enjoy, it's from Europe.
Okay, before closing this session and saying goodbye to you all after this masterclass, this training masterclass, I want to thank you all from most decidedly because of having been able to make it to this session. I also wish you all success in your profession, and I hope it's been interesting for you to learn about this iconic product, how it is produced, how it is meant to be cut, which we have learned after this master class and with the master cutter. And it would be a privilege for us to be with you in this streaming format, or even face-to-face, to continue accompanying you in your professional career and continue all together valuing this wonderful product. I trust you enjoyed the session, and I also hope you have learned things that are going to be useful for you in your future careers. The Interprofessional Association and myself, representing the association, I want to thank everybody's efforts and work, and also your participation in the different formats we've suggested. Hopefully next year we'll be able to do this face-to-face and enjoy this iconic, wonderful, tasty, special product that definitely is highly valued by us, and we trust will be a help to you in your future careers. So thank you very much. A warm, heartfelt hug to you all. Thank you for your attendance. Goodbye.
Feel perfection, freedom, feel the air, the breathe, the light through its marbling. Feel your eyes close, the aroma, that unique flavor of Iberian ham. Feel its reminiscence in your mind, nature. Feel the desire to have it, the need to share it. Feel another level, with intensity, because this is how passion feels. Because this is how ham, Iberian ham, is enjoyed. Ham, the passion of Europe. Enjoy, it's from Europe.